Chapter 1371, Clash. Tang Xiu glanced at Sable-Fiend Scorpio indifferently and said, "I don't care about your private affairs, but don't cause me troubles. You should be aware that I have many things at hand already. Do you want to know what kind of punishment you will suffer for bringing me troubles?" "This subordinate understands, Lord." Sable-Fiend Scorpio hurriedly nodded. Tang Xiu nodded and shifted the topic. "Anyway, this Argent guy should have now realized the problem, so carry out the next plan." Standing nearby the duo, a shocked look filled Jing Xian's smart and beautiful eyes. She didn't expect that the super powerhouse she admired, Sable-Fiend Scorpio, would address this mysterious young man as master. She had heard of the exploits of Sable-Fiend Scorpio ever since she was a child. Oftentimes she felt so intense and thrilled whenever she heard the exciting story, making her wish to experience such tumultuous moments, tasting such chances to frequent the edge of life and death, both to survive and get stronger unceasingly. Who's this man? Is he stronger than Sable-Fiend Scorpio? She was a bit curious about Tang Xiu. She made up her mind to figure this man out should she find the chance. Certainly, she was also confident since the other party was a man. She was sure that she could captivate his heart and make him confess to her. "And you are to enter the heavenly abode artifact. Keep in mind to not disturb the two perfected golden immortals who are recuperating inside." Tang Xiu shifted to Jing Xian and ordered in a deep voice. "Understood." Seeing that Sable-Fiend Scorpio had gone away, Jing Xian could only follow Tang Xiu's order to immediately enter the heavenly abode artifact. However, she trembled the moment she entered the artifact. What did he say? "Don't disturb the two perfected golden immortals who are recuperating here. There are still two other perfected golden immortals in this heavenly abode artifact?" The shock was too much. In the past, encountering perfected golden immortals was not that rare of an occasion to her. After all, her father was also a perfected golden immortal. But what shocked her was that Sable-Fiend Scorpio was not the only perfected golden immortal under him. It turned out that he had 3 of them. Don't tell me he's a supremacy stage powerhouse? Outside, Tang Xiu turned into an azure smoke and instantly vanished. At the next moment, he appeared in the alley just over 200 meters away from Argent Marshal Hale. He quickly stunned a shoemaker nearby, stuffed an immortal crystal to his hand, and put him into the heavenly abode artifact before occupying the man's position. "Shoe repair, shoe repair." The deep voice echoed in the alley. Outside the restroom, Argent Marshal Hale had waited for a long time, yet he hadn't seen Jing Xian come out of the restroom. He immediately frowned slightly and thought for a moment. Afterward, he quickly released his spiritual sense and shrouded the area towards the restroom. His expression drastically changed the moment he found out that nobody was in the restroom. Where could Jing Xian be? Is there someone else? Argent Marshal Hale frantically unleashed his spiritual sense and immediately covered the few hundreds of kilometers radius. To his fury, not even the shadows of Jing Xian could be seen within hundreds of kilometers. Did she run away? His facial muscles twitched and an intense murderous intent seemed to materialize and burst out in all directions. Bad premonitions kept growing inside him as he finally realized that he had fallen into a trap some people had laid out for him. He lost his wealth and now the person he bought was gone. This was, simply, losing everything. Unleashing his spiritual sense and killing intent, he scoured the area within a few hundred kilometers. But what followed was torrential angry roars from all corners. Among them were 2 terrifyingly powerful spiritual senses which directly bombarded Argent Marshal Hale's spiritual sense, causing him to shriek painfully and retract his spiritual sense. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Tens of figures flashed like lightning bolts and appeared around Argent Marshal Hale one after another, surrounding him. One of them, a golden-robed old man, glared at him with boiling killing intent and eyes that seemingly were able to release flame. "Damn asshole. You dare to release your spiritual sense and spy so outrageously in the floating snow city? You're dead. Please, it's a misunderstanding, everyone. Argent Marshal Hale also realized his recklessness. Recklessly releasing spiritual sense in large cities of some immortal domains to find others, and using it to check everyone there was considered a capital crime. It was seen as quite a provocation. He just momentarily lost his mind and did such reckless action, resulting in the ire of these several golden immortals and perfected golden immortals. The golden-robed old man was furious. He just forgot to activate soul obstruction array at his residence, thus the scene of his double cultivation with his woman had been clearly seen by this damn voyeur. It was still fine if it was him alone that had been seen, but seeing his woman was absolutely unforgivable. Everyone, this damn bastard dared to peep at our privacy. That's a blatant provocation to us. Let's get rid of him, the golden-robed old man shouted loudly. Kill. The tens of people released their respective immortal weapons one after another. Argent Marshal Hale's expression changed and he shouted fiercely, I'm Argent Marshal Hale, a subordinate of Cambrian Venerable from the Everlasting Palace. Do you dare to kill me? Do you not fear that the Everlasting Palace will seek revenge from you? Everlasting Palace? The expressions of the several golden immortals and perfected golden immortals changed and a look of dread immediately appeared on their faces. The golden-robed old man was shaken inwardly and his boiling killing intent instantly dissipated. He squeezed out a smile and then cupped his fist. It turns out that you're a fellow immortal from the Everlasting Palace. I wondered how could anyone dare to release his spiritual sense in the floating snow city. Is fellow immortal Argent Marshal Hale currently chasing an enemy? Please forgive me and the rest since we had no idea before. Argent Marshal Hale secretly sneered inwardly though he kept his composure on the outside. You're not to blame for having no idea about it. Quickly leave and don't intervene in our Everlasting Palace's matter. Understood. The tens of people were immediately at ease after hearing it. It wasn't like they couldn't kill Argent Marshal Hale. Rather, they didn't want to provoke troublesome issues for themselves. Being able to resolve the conflict directly, these people then apologized and left directly, leaving only Argent Marshal Hale in the alley. Who the hell is this Jing? Who has set me up? Argent Marshal Hale's eyes glittered as he pondered about the whole thing back and forth. Finally, he realized that someone who had laid out this farce was definitely the obese woman. And that young man who bought a bulk of his artifacts was definitely related to her. As he thought up to this point, he immediately rushed back to the Lithe Plume mansion and stormed inside with great force. Looking at the lively and extraordinary scene inside, he suddenly felt furious and released a huge aura, causing a lot of guests and prostitutes around to exclaim and flee in panic. Then, he shouted, roll out. Fat hag who presided over the auction and that punk who tricked me of my artifacts. Both you come out. Whoosh. 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 Several figures flashed and appeared inside the hall and looked at Argent Marshal Hale. A stout man then strode down the staircase and shouted fiercely, I remember you, Argent Marshal Hale. Daring to cause trouble at my Lithe Plume mansion, are you that impatient to die? Argent Marshal Hale angrily shouted back, your Lithe Plume mansion is the one who messed with me. I demand an explanation. Otherwise, the matters between us won't be over just like this. Hand over that fat old hag and that punk who tricked me of my artifacts. Else, don't blame me for tearing all decorum with you. The stout man took out his immortal weapon and coldly said, what an asshole. Still daring to provoke my Lithe Plume mansion, huh? You won't get away from this place without paying a price today. Activate the array and we'll make him realize that our Lithe Plume mansion is not some clown he can provoke easily. Immediately, a layer of rippling wave appeared out of thin air at the center of the hall and then spread out in all directions. In just a flash, it had spread throughout the hall and finally formed a layer of transparent energy shield. Inside the array, The stout man and a dozen guards of Lithe Plume Mansion fixedly stared at Argent Marshal Hale with boiling murderous intent. I've long heard that the background of Lithe Plume Mansion is extraordinary. I've long been wanting to witness it, and you do have some capital to boot. But I forgot to tell you, I'm from the Everlasting Palace, so I'll clean you all up first before dragging your master out to apologize to me, Argent Marshal Hale shouted fiercely. Everlasting Palace? A look of dread flashed in the eyes of the stout man, the leader of these men. But shortly after, he seemed to recall something and sneered. Even if you're from the Everlasting Palace, so what? The master behind the Lithe Plume Mansion will never be afraid. Everyone, let's kill him. Deep inside the Lithe Plume Mansion. Inside a magnificent palace were 4 long tables on both sides of the hall, each filled with delicacies, extravagant dishes, and jade-dew fine liquor. A red-robed man, venerable wandering slayer, who sat cross-legged, looked at the 4 distinguished guests and smilingly said, "The 4 of you bravely entered the secret palace. Though you didn't obtain the inheritance of drunken Immortal Supreme, your trip should have been very rewarding, yes?" At the first long table on the left, Golden Ray Old Freak uproariously laughed and said, "Damn right. It's been a fruitful trip indeed. Drunken Immortal Supreme is truly worthy of being the richest Supreme 80,000 years ago. You could find treasures literally everywhere in his secret palace. Unfortunately, we couldn't find the light flow wing you need, Lord Wandering Slayer. We're really ashamed." "It's okay," replied Venerable Wandering Slayer. "I read on the ancient record that Drunken Immortal Supreme obtained the light flow wing about 80,000 years ago, but I have no idea whether he left it in the secret palace, so it's fine if you didn't get it. Anyway, let's have a toast, old friends. Cheers." The 4 of them were all open-minded people. They didn't care much even though they weren't able to accomplish Venerable Wandering Slayer's entrustment. They just noted it down. Should they happen to obtain that object in the future, they would give it to him. Huh? As the 5 people emptied their cups, all of them wore strange expressions and shifted their attention to the Lithe Plume Mansion in front. In that instant, they released their spiritual sense to envelop the hall in the mansion in front. The array obstructed them, but their spiritual senses easily penetrated it and they were able to see the scene clearly. Chapter 1372, Being Humiliated. Golden Ray Old Freak slapped the long table and grinned. Now, Lord Wandering Slayer, you're the strongest perfected golden immortal in Floating Snow City, yet this man seems to not fear you. Those little guys are the guards of your Lithe Plume Mansion, right? They're so soft and pitiful. The smile on Wandering Slayer's face receded like a tide and was replaced by chagrin, wishing he could slap that bastard troublemaker to death. He even had the impulse to kill those several useless subordinates of his. It must be noted that this was the visit of his 4 old friends after 700+ years. Unexpectedly, they had to encounter such shameful things. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Old friends, I'm ashamed to let you see such a farce. I'm going to slaughter that punk and then have a few cups with you." Golden Ray Old Freak quickly raised his hand and said, "No need to hurry, Lord Wandering Slayer. Don't you know who this brat is?" Venerable Wandering Slayer froze for a moment. Then, he deeply frowned and a look of disgust was cast on his face. He forced a wry smile and said, "It turns out to be the traitor of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Star Cultivation Great Emperor was a powerful and brilliant man. The 5 of us once visited him and obtained his pointers. Yet, I never thought that one of his disciples would be such a coward inside out and a turncoat. This damned boy has ruined the reputation of Star Cultivation Great Emperor." Golden Ray Old Freak shook his head. "He should be damned and be killed, that I know. But he's a member of the Everlasting Palace now. Don't forget that we may end up being persecuted and suffer in the hands of the Everlasting Palace. The people of this sect may not let us go should we kill that punk now. He came to my place to make trouble, Do you think I should just let him do whatever he wants to harass me just because he's now a member of the Everlasting Palace? Retorted Venerable Wandering Slayer coldly. Golden Ray Old Freak raised his hand and stroked his chin. Then, he grinned. Killing that punk now would be too easy and cheap for him. We're all old friends, so I suggest we humiliate this brat so heavily that it will drag the Everlasting Palace to shame as well. No matter what, this boy came to your place to make trouble, so let's just deal with it. The other man, a handsome man called Venerable Living Willow who was dressed like a scholar, interjected with a sneer. It's said that the Everlasting Palace was hit badly during the Immortal fate plundering in the secret palace. The number of perfected golden immortals they lost there alone was in the dozen, and they lost a lot more golden immortals as well. We adding fire to the flame will make them more infamous and definitely drive them like sitting on pins and needles. The other two men did not utter anything, but they nodded in agreement. Venerable Wandering Slayer hideously grinned. He slapped the long table and laughed aloud. Well, since four old friends are so interested, let's pave the way for this punk. We'll shame this punk to the bottom while dragging some reputation of the Everlasting Palace to the ditch. Immediately after, the five men disappeared and appeared in the hall of the mansion in front. In nearly a flash, they appeared in front of Argent Marshal Hale. I already told you to hand over those two bastards to me. Else, I dare to burn your live plume mansion no matter how big your backer is. After inflicting heavy injuries to several guards of the live plum mansion, Argent Marshal Hale roared and threatened aggressively with a look of madness. Do you think my live plume mansion is a place for a traitor who betrayed his master and ancestors to behave atrociously? You want to burn this place down, huh? Today, I'll make you realize how miserable the price of arrogance is. Venerable Wandering Slayer sneered with squinted eyes. A large golden seal floated out of his palm and powerfully struck Argent Marshal Hale, instantly hitting his chest several times and causing him to cough up some mouthfuls of blood crazily. He was sent flying upside down to the outside towards the direction of Golden Ray Old Freak. Dismembering art. Golden Ray Old Freak laughed uproariously as he released a golden thread from his fingers. The golden thread instantly turned into a striking spiral thread. With his sophisticated control, Argent Marshal Hale was caught off guard and both his arms were shredded. Then, he was kicked towards Living Willow Venerable. Living Willow Venerable bashfully smiled and winked at Argent Marshal Hale with a playful expression. Thousands of invisible slaps suddenly hit Argent Marshal Hale's face in a flash, causing him to scream. The last slap then hit his chest in a flash and sent him flying towards Venerable Clear Night. Ah! How great of you to come to me! Venerable Clear Night released a ball of light and directly bombed Argent Marshal Hale's back. It was just one blow, but it was enough to severely injure him internally. The instant after, his body was wrapped with a stream of energy and was sent to Venerable Netherfire. Venerable Netherfire smacked his lips. Then, he instantly unleashed a ball of extinguishing flame that enveloped Argent Marshal Hale in a flash, burning clean all the hairs on his immortal body and his clothes into ashes. Bam! Argent Marshal Hale's body crashed to the ground surrounded by the five men. Only now did Argent Marshal Hale feel that the earth was so kind. At least, he no longer needed to be attacked by these five fearsome powerhouses. Who are you? After coughing up some mouthfuls of blood, Argent Marshal Hale took a robe from his interspatial ring and put it on his now miserable body. He angrily roared even though fear engulfed him. Even in his wildest dream, the thought that the Lithe Plume Mansion would have so many powerhouses never crossed his mind. Given his present strength, fighting even an early-stage, perfected Golden Immortal was a tall order. Further, he was unable to even fight these five people back, meaning that these five should be at least late-stage, perfected Golden Immortals. Who are we, huh? Venerable Wandering Slayer sneered. We're naturally the people of Lithe Plume Mansion. You're just a despicable traitor who betrayed the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and smeared the face of Star Cultivation Great Emperor. Abominable. Killing you is letting you off easy. Argent Marshal Hale angrily fumed. You, for master, for the sake of star cultivation, great emperor, you set up a trap and wanted to kill me? A strange look flashed in the eyes of venerable wandering slayer. He then shifted to his severely injured subordinate and asked in a deep voice, "What's happening here?" The severely injured stout man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and respectfully answered, "Some previously came to us and gave us 500,000 crystal essences to borrow our place to auction a certain immortal prostitute." The manager agreed, thinking that auctioning an immortal prostitute would add excitement to our place. Later on, the other party auctioned that prostitute in our hall, and Argent Marshal Hale finally won the bid with a sky-high price. Afterward, he took that immortal prostitute away, so the lively scene came to an end. Who would have thought that he would come back alone half a day later and threaten to kill us? He claimed our Lithe Plume mansion is in cahoots with those people to trap him. Wandering Slayer furrowed his brows and asked in a deep voice, "Do you know who those people are?" "We have no idea." The burly man shook his head. "Our Lithe Plum mansion only provided the palace and collected a fee. We have nothing to do with the rest." Venerable Wandering Slayer's expression turned cold and was about to speak. However, Golden Ray Old Freak was the first to laugh and then sighed. "Who the hell dared to plot against you, Venerable Wandering Slayer? But this Argent shitty guy is indeed unlucky enough to lose everything." To think that he was once a disciple of star cultivation, great emperor. "I thought he was an extraordinarily intelligent brat, but I didn't expect this punk to be nothing but some idiot coward." Venerable Wandering Slayer shook his head with a wry smile and sighed. The scheme of those people was great indeed. But such an auction is something that one side is willing to bid and the other one is willing to suffer. Nothing of it has anything to do with my Lithe Plume mansion, yet this punk actually stormed my site and did something that crossed my line. Go and notice the Everlasting Palace's people. Ask them whether they will take responsibility for this brat. If they don't want to, we'll kill him." "Understood." The stout man cupped his fists and then quickly left the array. At the lodging of the Everlasting Palace's members in the floating snow city. With hands crossed behind his back, Venerable Cambrian quietly stood by the window of the hundreds of meters high pavilion. Killing intent surged out from him. The losses the Everlasting Palace suffered this time were just too great, sapping nearly half of the power of the entire sect all of a sudden. If the sect didn't have two supremes, it was likely that the overall power of the entire sect wouldn't even be on par with those of a second-tier sect. "What shall we do now, Marshal Uncle?" a voluptuous woman behind him frowned and asked. Venerable Cambrian hummed. "We'll have to make up for these huge losses somewhere else. The number of treasures and other resources obtained by some disciples of our sect who came out alive from the trip to the secret palace can't be said to be a few. Thus, we'll send the message to our disciples in other immortal domains to find Dao Master Qingfeng and undemonized Sovereign Mo, and kill them on sight." "Understood." "I'll send the message at once," said the voluptuous woman respectfully. Venerable Cambrian remained silent for a long while afterward. Only after the beautiful woman sent the message did he finally say, "Sigh, the sect's disciples must be very vexed now. Many forces are not very friendly to our sect and are rather hostile to us. They must be waiting to hit us while we're down now. At this time, it's necessary to kill some to warn the rest, to deter those who are about to move and make trouble." Buzz. A message token suddenly shot from a distance and Venerable Cambrian instantly caught it. The moment he read the message contained in it, his complexion suddenly changed and his killing aura instantly skyrocketed as he shouted loudly, "Sky Pillar, Sky Mark. Follow me to the Lithe Plume mansion." 15 minutes later, Venerable Cambrian arrived at the Lithe Plume mansion with Sky Pillar and Sky Mark, two other perfected golden immortals. Their complexions drastically changed the moment they entered the array in the hall and saw the crowd and the scene inside. "I didn't expect I'd run into you here, Venerable Wandering Slayer, Golden Ray Old Freak, Venerable Living Willow," Venerable Clear Night, and Venerable Netherfire. People say that before beating a dog, you must first ask its master. Yet, the 5 of you are really unbridled enough to dare to cruelly injure a member of the Everlasting Palace. Venerable Cambrian unleashed his innate natal immortal sword, glaring and shouting murderously at the 5 people. Chapter 1373, Positive Result. Venerable Wandering Slayer let out a contemptuous look. This venerable Cambrian had once been defeated by a warrior under him and was nearly beheaded under his sword. He didn't expect that the man would act so arrogant when they met again now. The dog raised by your everlasting palace barks and bites everywhere. Trying to bite others and now relying on the name of your sect to bully others, huh? Venerable Cambrian coldly replied, "What do you mean by that? Do you know what this place is?" Venerable Wandering Slayer sneered. "This lithe plume mansion is my place, and your dog came here to cause troubles. Do you think I have to lower my face to beat him?" Venerable Cambrian frowned and turned to the miserable Argent Marshal Hale, shouting in a deep voice, "What the hell is going on here? Someone colluded with the lithe plume mansion to trap me into battle and kill me," answered Argent Marshal Hale with a hoarse voice. "Slander!" Venerable Wandering Slayer shouted angrily. But at the next moment, his expression slightly changed and he snapped. "Who are you? Get out!" Whoosh! 2 blurry figures appeared in the array out of the blue. After Tangxiu and Sable Fiend Scorpio appeared, he looked at the miserable Argent Marshal Hale and immediately grinned. "I was just passing by Floating Snow City, but I didn't expect to run into such an interesting scene here, so I came to join the fun. What's your name, mister? You look a bit familiar, and I heard your name is something like Wandering Slayer?" Wandering Slayer's face turned chilly and he coldly replied, "This Immortal is the owner of the Lithe Plume Mansion, Venerable Wandering Slayer. And who are you, mister? I don't think you are here just to watch a lively scene, no?" "I told you the truth," said Tangxiu with a grin. "Coming here is really a coincidence. So your name is Venerable Wandering Slayer. Now I remember that a certain great figure once mentioned you to me." "And who exactly was that great figure?" asked Wandering Slayer with narrowed eyes. "Star Cultivation Great Emperor," answered Tangxiu. Wandering Slayer's expression slightly changed and he took a deep breath. Then, he slowly asked, "And who are you, sir?" "I'm Great Tang Heavenly Emperor," answered Tangxiu with a smile. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor? Everyone was shocked. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, a name that had become the talk of the town recently, turned out to be this young man in front of them? It must be noted that he was the most famous peerless talent among the bridge trial takers, in the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme. "But why are you here, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor?" asked Wandering Slayer inexplicably. "I failed to obtain that fortuitous encounter," Tangxiu replied with a dry smile. "Naturally, I got expelled by the inheritor of Drunken Immortal Supreme. It's just that I didn't expect to run into this interesting scene when I happened to pass by the Floating Snow City. If anything, please continue and don't mind me. Just treat me as free audience or something like that." Golden Ray Old Freak burst into laughter. "You're really interesting, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. You even crack a joke in this tense atmosphere where everyone is ready to slit each other's throat. This old Golden Ray really admires you." Tangxiu shifted to him and teased. "Well, I remember someone saying that a man was trying to prove that he had balls, so he went to the roof of a widow's house to peek at her when taking a bath. That man then finally fell into that widow's bathtub. Are you the man in the story?" Cough, cough. Golden Ray Old Freak was flushed red instantly. After coughing a few times, he glared angrily at Tangxiu and shouted, "Who the hell are you? Only these 4 old buddies of mine know about this." The last one was. Tangxiu waved and said, never mind it. That was a joke. Let's stop it now, shall we?" I just want to tell you that I have some origins related to you, old freak Goldenray. As for what that connection is, well, you can tend to your business first and I'll be watching the fun from the side. Anyway, venerable wandering slayer, I plan to fill my stomach and have some drinks in your place. I don't have to pay for anything, right? Alright, I'll be waiting for you to finish your business. But you gotta introduce me to some chaste and lovely belles here later for free, deal? Wandering Slayer stared at Tang Xiu with a strange expression before a bitter smile appeared on his face. Looking for chaste and lovely belles? Here. My place is a brothel, so where the hell can you get some chaste and lovely young lasses here? Is this supposed to be a friend teasing me or something? Wandering Slayer coughed, shifted to old freak Goldenray, and said, let's deal with the business at hand first. We were bullied by outsiders and are quite vexed now. I, Wandering Slayer, once indeed suffered a loss in the hands of Everlasting Palace. But the past enmity has been written off, after all. However, someone else from the same faction now came and harassed my place yet again. That already crossed the line. Goldenray retracted his angry glare from Tang Xiu and shifted to Venerable Cambrian. With an annoyed expression, he said in a deep voice, you should have figured out the whole story first before barking. This dog of your everlasting keeps biting everywhere. He even just threatened to burn down Venerable Wandering Slayer's place. It was your dog who acted like a bully, so we demand an explanation from you. If you refuse to take responsibility, then don't blame us for being merciless and bringing the fight to your everlasting palace. Venerable Cambrian was very furious at the moment. If it weren't for the trip to the secret palace that ended up badly for them, he wouldn't have cared a bit about Venerable Wandering Slayer's group of five's provocation. He did want to kill some people, but these 5 men were late-stage, perfected golden immortals. Should they tear all decorum, they would be very hard to deal with and would likely be quite a big threat to the current everlasting palace. His gaze shifted to Argent Marshal Hale and interrogated coldly. Can you show any evidence that they set you up? This? Argent Marshal Hale hesitated. The incident did take place here, but through the exchange between Venerable Wandering Slayer and that stout man, he realized that the people who set him up might have nothing to do with Venerable Wandering Slayer. However, seeing his hesitation, Venerable Cambrian realized something. Then, the immortal sword in his hand stabbed Argent Marshal Hale's chest. And, in the next moment, his sword cut off his head directly. He then caught Argent Marshal Hale's immortal soul that frantically tried to flee from his corpse and fiercely said, courting troubles for my everlasting palace, you deserve to be executed. Puff. After grabbing the guy's immortal soul, Venerable Cambrian turned to Wandering Slayer and indifferently said, he provoked you and I've given you a definite explanation. How do you see this explanation, then? Wandering Slayer was about to speak when he suddenly received a voice transmission. His eyes immediately narrowed and he swallowed back the words he was about to speak out. He then took a deep breath and said, it was a good explanation. But how about making a deal with me regarding this issue, Venerable Cambrian? What deal? Asked Venerable Cambrian indifferently. I have yet to vent my anger even though this Argent Marshal Hale has been punished by you, said Wandering Slayer. So, I'll buy his immortal soul for 2 million crystal essences. Do you agree to my offer, Venerable Cambrian? 2 million crystal essences for Argent's immortal soul? Venerable Cambrian furrowed his brows and asked with a puzzled expression, what do you want to do with his immortal soul? Well, a certain old friend of mine is currently refining the 100 Demons Blood Soul streamer, and only one soul is missing. This Argent Marshal Hale just irked me, so I want him to be the main soul for the 100 Demons Blood Soul streamer. The 100 Demons Blood Soul streamer? Venerable Cambrian's pupils shrunk. He looked terrified and agitatedly asked, how come your old friend dares to refine such a wicked artifact like the 100 Demons Blood Soul streamer, Venerable Wandering Slayer? Is he not afraid he will be found out by the powerhouses in the immortal world and be targeted for endless pursuit? That's his business. What he does has nothing to do with me, said Venerable Wandering Slayer lightly. Venerable Cambrian looked at Argent Marshal Hale's immortal soul and saw his fearful expression. After contemplating for a few seconds, he slowly said, double it, and this dog's immortal soul is yours. It's great to have a deal with you, Venerable Cambrian, said Wandering Slayer aloud. Then this issue is now written off. Please take these 4 million crystal essences. Venerable Cambrian handed Argent Marshal Hale's immortal soul to Wandering Slayer and coldly said, this issue has been resolved, so deactivate this array and let us leave now. All right. Wandering Slayer squinted his eyes, deactivated the array quickly, and watched as Venerable Cambrian's group of 3 left. Afterward, he shifted to Tang Xiu and meaningfully said, your visit is an honor to me, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. It's also an honor for my Lithe Plume Mansion. However, your request for chaste and lovely young lasses is kind of hard to please. Would you be my guest and come inside with me, so I can immediately seek them for you? Well, a guest must naturally honor the request of the host. Tang Xiu lightly smiled and followed the 5 men into the palace in the rear with Sable Fiend Scorpio. As the array surrounding the palace was opened, Tang Xiu and Sable Fiend Scorpio were directly surrounded by Venerable Wandering Slayer and Golden Ray, Old Freak's group of 5 the moment they entered. While looking at their disgruntled expressions with killing intent looming in them, Tang Xiu lightly smiled and said, why the tense atmosphere? I told you that I have some connections with you a while ago, didn't I? I want to know your true identity, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. And what exactly is your relationship with Star Cultivation Great Emperor? Asked Venerable Wandering Slayer. Tang Xiu sighed and shook his head before he walked to a long table, took out a wine cup from his interspatial ring, and poured himself a cup of white wine. Then, he slowly said, like you all, I've also visited Star Cultivation Great Emperor and obtained his pointers. As for my background, I'm the master of Mist Spring Island and the Immortal Lyceum region, as well as the Emperor of the Great Tang Empire. The expressions of these 5 men shifted after hearing this. Can you repeat where your Great Tang Empire is located? Asked Venerable Wandering Slayer immediately. I just told you. The Mist Spring Island, said Tang Xiu with a light smile. Your words are nonsensical, Mr. Venerable Wandering Slayer sneered. The Mist Spring Island is a territory under Venerable Bella Fern Regalia. How come she allowed you to found an empire in her territory? That was because I was happy to let him do it. Do you think you can tell me what to do? A hazy figure suddenly appeared in the hall. Venerable Bella Fern Regalia, who had restored her original appearance, appeared with a majestic and aloof stance. She came to Tang Xiu's side and softly asked, I just received your message and immediately rushed over. Are you all right? It's okay. I'm fine. Tang Xiu shook his head with a smile. Chapter 1374, Missing a Chance. Venerable Wandering Slayer and Old Freak Golden Ray's group of 5 immediately showed their respect the moment they saw Venerable Bella Fern Regalia. It was true respect from their hearts, not superficial at all. It was well known that Venerable Bella Fern Regalia had yet to become a supreme when Star Cultivation Great Emperor was still around, yet, she put down all the restraints of being a woman and actively and bravely pursued him. No matter how many times she was rejected, she still persisted and persevered. Being so brave and persistent in her love. There were many inspiring love stories in the immortal world, but none of those could compare with the love story shown by Venerable Bella Fern Regalia that was worth their admiration. Especially after Star Cultivation Great Emperor was gone after failing his tribulation. She went so far as to help the family of Star Cultivation Great Emperor, experiencing brutal bloody battles, again and again, wandering on the edge of life and death time and again. It could be said that the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect would have ended up more miserable if it weren't for the help of Venerable Bella Fern Regalia. Even after she had broken through to the supremacy stage, she forced the Inner Pill Sect and the Everlasting Palace to temporarily cancel their onslaught, and only trapped the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect's people in their territory. Greetings, Supreme Bella Fern Regalia. The 5 men cupped their fists and bowed to salute. Everyone, I may have advanced to the supremacy stage, but I still like my previous title, so keep addressing me as Venerable Bella in the future, said Bella lightly. By your words, the 5 men respectfully replied. Bella then shifted to Tang Xiu and asked, what did you run into that made you so happy? Tang Xiu slightly smiled and took out 4 million crystal essences from his interspatial ring. He smiled at Wandering Slayer and said, I have to thank you for your help a while ago, Venerable Wandering Slayer. Please take these crystal essences as reimbursement for what you spent in exchange for giving me the immortal soul of Argent Marshal Hale. Venerable Wandering Slayer had just put Argent Marshal Hale's immortal soul into a soul-refining container, but now he took out the soul-refining container and directly handed it to Tang Xiu. Those 4 million crystal essences are worth nothing to me. Besides, us brothers are also very disgusted with this traitor. This guy has smeared the reputation of star cultivation great emperor, so forget about it. But Tang Xiu insisted and reasoned with all seriousness. You give an amount and return it in a similar fashion. I'm already grateful for your help, so please, you must take these crystal essences. This, Venerable Wandering Slayer turned to Bella. All right, take it since he insists, said Bella with a light smile. Besides, we don't like to owe too many to anyone. With that said, she grabbed and held Tang Xiu's arm, her smile turning more brilliant. You both. Venerable Wandering Slayer's pupils shrunk with disbelief. The other 4 men also reacted like him, as though they were looking at the most incredible thing in the world. Remember that great Tang Heavenly Emperor is my archenemy since he snatched my immortal Lyceum, understood? Said Bella lightly. Venerable Wandering Slayer's group of 5 exchanged glances and then understood the meaning of Bella's words immediately. After a moment of silence, the 5 men immediately vowed an immortal oath. Shortly after, Wandering Slayer said with all seriousness, I promise you that within a month at most, the entire immortal world will know that there's a bloody feud between Great Tang Heavenly Emperor and Venerable Bella Fern Regalia. All right, one day in the future, the 5 of you must come to the Great Tang Empire and I'll explain to you the insights of how to break through to the supremacy stage, said Bella happily. Thank you. The 5 men were shocked but happily surprised. Tang Xiu calmly smiled and said, we were destined to meet each other today, so why don't you guys prepare some drinks for us? You didn't shut us out, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, so please come and have a taste of my Azure Bamboo Immortal Wine. Let's drink happily. Hey, some of you come here and bring my Azure Bamboo Wine. Also, you are not to leave my place if you don't get drunk first, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. For 2 whole days, Tang Xiu drank with them to their heart's content while chatting about the situation in the immortal world. Bella herself and Sable Fiend Scorpio just stayed by his side and did not interfere with the happy drinking event between Tang Xiu and the 5 perfected golden immortals. Finally, Golden Ray Old Freak was the first to get drunk, and the other 5, including Tang Xiu, finally got dead drunk as well. 7 days later, when Tang Xiu woke up from his lethargic sleep, he found himself sleeping in Bella's lap on a fast-moving carriage. The whole sky was filled with the sunset light and red clouds, and the mysterious scene of the world looked so charming and extraordinarily picturesque. How long have I slept and where are we now? Tang Xiu rubbed his pained head and asked right after he took a seat. It's been 7 days. We're only 3 regions away from the Immortal Lyceum region. We should be back home a few days later, answered Bella with a smile. So fast, blurted Tang Xiu in surprise. Well, Sable Fiend Scorpio obtained a treasure garb back when she was in the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme. She gave it to me, so we can now move faster, said Bella. What treasure is it? Asked Tang Xiu. Lightflow Wing, answered Bella with a smile. Tang Xiu was surprised and said, rumors have it that this streamer wing, the Lightflow Wing, was once obtained by Drunken Immortal Supreme and then disappeared after he ascended to the God Realm. It's such a great treasure that it can at least double the speed of whoever obtains it. Be it for traveling or killing, it's an absolute trump card. I'll give you the light flow wing after we arrive at the Immortal Lyceum, Xiao, said Bella with a smile. No, that light flow wing will play a greater role with you using it. Tang Xiao shook his head. Besides, our great Tang Empire is planning to expand its territory and occupy many large immortal domains, so we'll need a powerhouse like you at the helm. The first stage of the Great Tang Empire's development should be completed within a century, with which will lay a solid foundation. A century later, it will be the time when our Great Tang Empire will fully blast out. Only a few centuries? Isn't it too hasty? Asked Bella with hesitation. I don't think so, replied Tang Xiao with a smile. I have provided a massive number of cultivation resources. If we fail to lay a solid foundation, that means the people of the Great Tang Empire are just incompetent. You must know that I have prepared many things, namely various cultivation resources which are absolutely many times more than other forces. But the most important aspect to a deep foundation such as those super forces is the number of golden immortals, and perfected golden immortals, said Bella. Do you think the Great Tang Empire can have a large number of golden immortals and perfected golden immortals within a few hundred years? You know, the Great Tang Empire already has more than a dozen perfected golden immortals now, said Tang Xiao calmly. As for the number of golden immortals, well, we'll have at least tens of thousands of them within a century. Come again. Bella's eyes were full of disbelief. It must be noted that even the most powerful force would only have roughly 10,000 or even 5,000 golden immortals. What kind of heritage did the Great Tang Empire have that tens of thousands of golden immortals could emerge within a century? Bella, you have yet to learn much about the situation of our Great Tang Empire, said Tang Xiao with a smile. You'll understand a lot when we go back. What I can tell you now is that we have more than 30,000 monster immortals with terrifyingly deep foundations. Let alone advancing to the golden immortal stage, if you give them enough time and teach them suitably in their cultivation, most of them will face no issue in advancing to the perfected golden immortal stage. Gasp. That was something unimaginable to Bella. Where did Tang Xiao find so many monster immortals? Her scalp went numb upon imagining that the Great Tang Empire would have 10,000 to 20,000 perfected golden immortals in their ranks. At that time, just relying on this force, they would likely be able to sweep over the whole immortal world, right? Bella, halt our advance. Tang Xiao suddenly ordered. Bella froze for a moment. She observed the surroundings first. After stopping, she looked bewildered and asked, why? We rescued Dao Master Qingfeng and undemonized Sovereign Mo on the way back. They are now inside the Heavenly Abode artifact. We're about to return to the Immortal Lyceum region, so we have to let them leave for now. I don't want to expose my identity too soon, explained Tang Xiao. Bella quickly understood and nodded with a smile. Ah, I see. Saving them is indeed for a good reason. The moment after, Dao Master Qingfeng and undemonized Sovereign Mo came out of the Heavenly Abode artifact. They now looked much better even though they had yet to fully recover from their injuries. At least, they were now able to go all out should they encounter another crisis. Gentlemen, I'm going back to the Great Tang Empire soon and I can't take you with me on the way. May I know what do you plan to do next? Asked Tang Xiao with a smile. I've discussed it with undemonized Sovereign Mo before. I may have escaped from danger, but the Everlasting Palace will likely vent their anger on my pristine immortal Confucian sect. I reckon that a large number of powerhouses will storm my sect to demand something. That's why I must hurry back. If the Everlasting Palace people do come to my sect, we'll definitely get into a big fight with them at the worst. Well, I've been living like a drifter, so I have no fixed place to live, to begin with. I've made up my mind to follow Qingfeng back to his sect as a guest. Let's just say that I found a safe place to heal myself first, said Sovereign Mo lightly. You're really great. At least you're not afraid to brave dangers and make great sacrifices for the sake of your friends. Tang Xiu gave his thumbs up and exclaimed in praise, "Anyway, since you are decided, I won't be able to accompany you any longer. But both of you are always welcome to visit my great Tang Empire. Let's have some drinks by then." "That's for sure. There will be a chance for that, sure." The two men cupped their fists one after another and then quickly left under the gaze of Tang Xiu's group. Tang Xiu then summoned Jing Xian from the Heavenly Abode artifact. Then, he pointed to Bella and said, "You want to follow us to the Immortal Lyceum, so I'm giving you to Venerable Bella to serve as her maid. Serve her well and you'll definitely benefit in the future." "Me? Becoming a maid?" Jing Xian's face turned a bit cold and she replied with a bit of anger, "Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, I'm not going to be someone's maid. I'm going to be a disciple of Sable Fiend Scorpio." Chapter 1375, Enormous Wealth. Tang Xiu smiled at her response and lightly said, "Are you sure you don't want to be her maid? Think about it. This is your only chance." Jing Xian carefully observed Bella for a while. Although she was indeed attracted by the majestically graceful woman in front, she was unwilling to be someone's maid. She shook her head and said, "I'm the only one in command to choose my own path. I want to learn under a master to be stronger, so I don't want to be someone's maid." Sigh. Tang Xiu shook his head. "That's a pity for you. She's a supreme, yet you don't to be her maid. All right, you can cultivate under Sable Fiend Scorpio in the future then. I hope you can get what you want and become a powerhouse in the future." "What did you say?" Jing Xian's countenance changed greatly and disbelief filled her eyes as she exclaimed. "She's a supreme? How is this possible? There are only a few people at the supremacy stage in the immortal world, how could I easily encounter one here?" Sable Fiend Scorpio also looked regretful and sighed. "Lord is right, Xian. Although Venerable Bella still uses her old title, she's really a supremacy stage powerhouse. In the entire immortal world, the number of people who want to serve under a supreme is definitely countless. Even golden immortals and perfected golden immortals would likely be willing to serve under them. It was such a heaven-sent opportunity, yet you just missed it. It seems you're really fated to follow and cultivate by my side." "She's a supreme?" Endless remorse filled Jing Xian's heart. She never dreamed that she would do such a stupid thing in her life. One must know that even some perfected golden immortals wanted to serve a supreme, hoping that they would obtain pointers and direction from that supremacy stage powerhouse for a greater chance to advance to the supremacy stage later. Yet, why did I, a trivial celestial immortal, a nobody far from being a profound immortal, much less a golden immortal or a perfected golden immortal, refused a supreme outright without knowing who she really is? She wanted to cry but had no tears. Bella only glanced at Jing Xian and no longer paid any attention to this trivial matter. Jing Xian may have very stunning looks, a beauty that only a few women in the entire immortal world could have. Yet, she was not worried about what would happen to her and Tang Xiu. Firstly, she didn't care whether it would happen or not, and secondly, she knew Tang Xiu's character. Regardless of whether this female had a beauty that could topple a kingdom and ruin a country and their people with her absolute beauty, Tang Xiu would likely not be moved by her at all. Time fleeted by. Tang Xiu and Bella returned to the Immortal Lyceum region, roughly tens of thousands of kilometers away from the misty spring ocean. They then discovered a company of 100 warriors searching for something in a dense mountain forest. They looked like they were searching for an enemy, likely a formidable one. "Let's have a look." Tang Xiu's expression shifted and he immediately flew towards them. As his figure appeared in front of them, the company immediately became vigilant, looking at him as though facing a formidable enemy. Then, Tang Xiu immediately said lightly, "It's me. What happened here? You seem to be very vigilant." "Greetings, Your Majesty." The captain of the company led all the soldiers to kneel on one knee immediately before reporting to Tang Xiu, "Your Majesty, The army of our great Tang Empire is centered at the Misty Spring Ocean and is now expanding outward in 4 directions, at an extremely fast speed. Once in a while, we have some frictions with some people from the Immortal Lyceum region. We have them routed and taken them captive. But a few days ago, our army encountered unprecedented resistance from a group led by someone from the Immortal Lyceum. Our commander, however, suspects that the other party is not from the Immortal Lyceum but an undercover agent of another force. Tang Xiu raised his brows and asked, "How many people are in this group, and what is the cultivation level of their leader?" "This group has 24 people and its leader is a celestial immortal." Tang Xiu turned to Sable-Fiend Scorpio and lightly ordered, "You stay here to deal with this issue. Remember, if the other party refuses to surrender, expel them but do not kill them." "Understood, Lord." Sable-Fiend Scorpio respectfully nodded. Afterward, Tang Xiu and Bella flew away, leaving Jing Xian to Sable-Fiend Scorpio. Due to Bella's cultivation level aided by the light flow wing, their flying speed was truly against heaven. It took them only 15 minutes to arrive at the Misty Spring Island. At the Myriad Golden Catamaran. After coming back, Tang Xiu placed the Myriad Golden Catamaran directly atop a towering mountain surrounded by clouds and fog, causing the place to look palatial and magnificent. Tang Xiu planned to use this site as the meeting hall of the Great Tang Empire and his residence. On the first floor, Tang Xiu sat on the temporarily placed dragon throne as he glanced across the faces of nearly 100 high-ranking officials of the Great Tang Empire inside. Afterward, he began speaking with satisfaction. "This trip has been quite rewarding, so the first thing I need to announce is that starting today, all members of the Great Tang Empire, from the soldier rank to the elder rank, will receive double their original allowance." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Everyone present smiled. Most of them had followed Tang Xiu from Earth. They were perfectly aware now that having more cultivation resources would affect their cultivation. Being able to get more of them would increase their cultivation speed by a lot, which was definitely great for them. On the contrary, all the perfected golden immortals such as Zenith Venerable, Seaway Monarch, Celestial Litho Monstrum, Flaming Demon Feline, Golden-Eyed Great Pong, Lupus Chimera Monstrum, Nether Sea Whale King, Apotheon Mu, Apotheon Myriad Notes, Apotheon Soaring Plum, Apotheon 9 Immortal Fingers, and Enchantress, you were secretly taken aback. They knew that even though the present Great Tang Empire was not very powerful, it still had a large number of people. The amount of resources needed annually was astronomical. Further, as perfected golden immortal stage powerhouses, they had already received a lot of resources themselves. Doubling their allowance would likely make the rate of consumption skyrocket. Grand Master, Gu Xiaoxue called out with a worried expression. "I understand your worries, Xiaoxue." Tang Xiu waved his hand and said, "However, we obtained a massive number of immortal artifacts, immortal crystals, and crystal essences from the trip to the secret palace. The resources we obtained are many times more than the previous entire wealth of the Great Tang Empire, so you don't have to worry about it. Besides, the whole immortal world is very huge and the number of resources here is countless. We can get these resources from other places even if all of our wealth is consumed." Having said that, he took out an interspatial ring and handed it to Gu Xiaoxue. "You command the Ministry of Finance of the Great Tang Empire and you're in charge of all the treasury and resources of the state, so take care of the resource allocation." Afterward, he took a deep breath and continued, "I hereby announce that the Great Tang Empire will form an Internal Affairs Department. Apotheon Mu will serve as the Minister of the Internal Affairs Ministry with Tang Ning and Cheng Xueme as his deputies. The 3 of you will be responsible to pick your own department members and to give the list of members you've selected to me, for review later. Further, you will discuss with the rest of the departments, including the Ministry of Finance, to formulate a reward and punishment system. Aside from that." After finishing announcing all the orders, Tang Xiu dismissed everyone and then headed to the place where his parents lived, the Splinter Flower Sea. The beautiful villa was located in the Sea of Flowers. The building itself was not an ordinary building, but an artifact refined by Gu Yan. At this time, Su Lingyun was accompanying her mother-in-law, Zhang Shi, chatting while reading some thick books, whereas Gu Yin was sitting cross-legged next to batches of flowers nearby with colorful butterflies and immortal bees, flying around her as she immersed herself in cultivation. A faint aura then surged around her the moment Tang Xiu arrived, enabling him to sense that she had reached the crossing tribulation stage. Sigh, how time flies. Gu Yin was just a little girl then, and now she has already grown up. Tang Xiu glanced at Gu Yin's beautiful face and secretly sighed inwardly. Then, he went towards Su Lingyun and Zhang Shi, greeting them with a smiling face. Hey, Mom, Grandma, are you busy now? Oh, Xiu. Zhang Shi and Su Lingyun suddenly looked very happy upon seeing Tang Xiu. Ever since they followed Tang Xiu to the immortal world, Tang Xiu often went out for a year and a half. His last trip was even longer, so they both missed him very much. Master. Gu Yin, who was cultivating in the Shroud of Flowers, immediately stopped cultivating the moment she heard Tang Xiu's voice and rushed over with a joyful cry. Tang Xiu smiled slightly and patted her shoulder. Gu Yin held his arm intimately as he spoke to her with a smile. How time flies. The little girl Yin has now grown into a big girl already. Come, Master will give you a treasure. A treasure for me? What is it, Master? Gu Yin's eyes lit up and she asked curiously. Tang Xiu took out a 5-colored dragon pearl and handed it to her with a smile. Swallow it and slowly refine it. This is a 5-colored dragon pearl of the sacred dragon that will greatly help your cultivation. Whoa, it's so beautiful. Gu Yin was surprised and happy and kept playing with it. Tang Xiu only smiled slightly at her response. He obtained a total of 12 5-colored dragon pearls. He already gave one to Star Tears and now gave another to Gu Yin, so he still had 10 left in his interspatial ring. Quickly after, he took out 2 more and quickly cast a seal to insert it each into the bodies of his mother and grandmother. Afterward, he smilingly said, Mama, Grandma, you both entered the cultivation path far too late, so your cultivations are too weak. The 5-colored dragon pearl will transform your physiques and speed up your cultivation. Therefore, you both must cultivate well. I look forward to seeing you break through to the immortal stage. Su Lingyun smiled slightly in response and said, Xiu, becoming immortals is not our concern. You know what we are concerned about most. It's been so many years already, so when will you? Tang Xiu hastily waved his hand and hollowly smiled. Please no rush about that, Mom. Just gimme some time. I assure you'll definitely hug many grandchildren in the future. Hey, you brat. Su Lingyun unhappily snapped. How come we're not worried about you? Tang Xiu was stunned. How could mother be sick? She entered the cultivation path and is now at the golden core stage with the support of a lot of resources. How can this happen?